For those of you who don't practice ghosting, this message may not be for you, but check it out just in case it does apply. We're living in a time where ghosting is prevalent and considered socially acceptable. However, living in a ghosting culture is not good for the psyche or the nervous system, so it's not really acceptable. Ghosting occurs in a variety of situations, including romantic, work, and even family relationships. People go ghost even on siblings and parents. Collectively, we created it, and now we tolerate it. But that doesn't mean it's good for us. In the short term, people are left confused, rejected, or abandoned. The long-term implications are concerning because they affect the individual and society as a whole. I wonder if ghosting even exists in tribal communities, indigenous cultures, or any close-knit community where people still feel connected to one another. Ghosting seems to be the byproduct of disconnection and individuation gone way wrong. At any given moment, humanity is either up-leveling, ascending, evolving, or improving. Or alternatively, humanity could be regressing, descending, devolving, or deteriorating. We are either at cause or we're at effect. Communication is either healthy or problematic. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The way we communicate with others is a direct reflection of how we communicate with ourselves. So the question becomes, are we ghosting ourselves? If so, where are the areas where we have gotten into a habit of ghosting ourselves? If we can locate the ways in which we don't show up for ourselves or the way that we avoid conversations, those conversations we refuse to have with ourselves, we can begin to correct this tendency to avoid in the consciousness of humanity. So there's an opportunity for us to practice engagement versus disengagement. We are being invited to remain conscious and to stay present, to remain focused, and to show up in life. Having uncomfortable conversations may be difficult, but we are fully capable of doing this. However, some of us grew up with avoidant attachment styles. This is where one or more early caregivers were emotionally absent or unavailable. Some people integrated this way of communicating because it was modeled for them. Some people have an anxious attachment style where their way of communicating is influenced by conscious or subconscious anxiety. What's interesting is that people who have an anxious attachment or communication style often find themselves attracted to people who have an avoidant attachment or communication style. And some people have an anxious avoidant attachment or communication style that is a combination of both, which means that they embody both of these defense mechanisms. There's also something called avoidant personality disorder, where these people move through the world avoiding a variety of intimate or relational situations. Ghosting creates brain neurology that will be detrimental in the long term. That's my opinion. In the short term, ghosting sours relationships and leaves others confused, hurt, angry, or feeling abandoned. But in the long term, the ghoster is creating mental programming around how they handle a variety of situations. And through the ghosting, they're sending the message to themselves that they don't have the bandwidth to problem solve or to remain assertive in a variety of situations. If the brain doesn't believe that you are capable of being a better version of yourself, then it will help you be a lesser version of yourself. And you will always revert back to those practices that are inferior to who you actually could be. Ghosting acts as a permission slip for you to abandon yourself when you need yourself the most. Ghosting suggests that you are lazy, incapable, inept, self absorbed, lacking empathy, shallow, and disconnected from the impact of your behavior on others. However, the brain integrates that as a personal problem. The subconscious observes this practice as the way you truly feel about yourself. This is why it's so problematic. At some point, ghosting behavior will be problematic in your own personal experience. This is why it's so deep. So, what's the solution? Well, stay present, show up, remain engaged, have the complicated conversations. You know why? You want to know why you should do this? Because you can. You are a multi dynamic being. And I'm about to say it. And you are not a punk. I'm going to say it again, ghosters. Trigger warning. This, you might get annoyed with me. You're not a punk. You don't have to ghost people. You don't have to go ghost. You don't have to just go silent. You're stronger than that. You're better than that. Think about all of the wisdom from all the years you've been on this planet, no matter how old you are or how young you are. You got wisdom and experience, right? You got street smarts. You're not a punk. You don't have to punk out of situations. You can remain assertive. You can show up. You can be present. You can do this. You're a survivor. Humanity, you can do this. We don't have to go ghost on people. So you can remain assertive and you can also set boundaries. You can do both. You're a multitasker. You can say something like, hey, I know you like me, but I don't feel the same way as you. Or you could say, I know you would like for me to be as enthusiastic about you or as you about this situation, but I have to remain authentic and that's not aligned for me. We can say these things, we can do this, but we probably need to practice. If you're a ghoster, ghosting doesn't have to just be your, this is the way it is for you. You can reprogram yourself, you can reset the brain, and you can entrain your nervous system to a new paradigm if you allow yourself to be a better, higher, deeper version of yourself. Humanity, we can swim in the deep end of the ocean. We can feel the tension and still move through it with strong boundaries. We can feel conflict and at the same time resolve conflict. We can let people down gently while at the same time protect ourselves. We don't have to avoid anything. We can care for ourselves while demonstrating care and concern for others. Think about first responders. The fire can be raging and we can run into the fire. We can protect ourselves so that we can also save as many lives as possible. It is possible for us to experience tense situations or the fire, if you will, while at the same time remaining assertive and concerned for ourselves and others. We can rise above ghosting because ghosting is a self-limiting communication style, and it suggests that we're not capable of being more, but I call BS on that. I don't believe that that's who we are. I think this ghosting culture that we're living in is kind of like a virus that we've allowed to hijack our mental computer. The software has become contaminated. So what do we do when the software is contaminated? What do we do when there's a virus? We remove it. We pull out the malware. We deactivate the programs that are not working or that have become corrupted. We clean it out, and then we upload brand new software, almost like you have a shiny new brain. We're still learning, right? Humanity. We're learning as we live. We are entraining our own brains and showing the brain and the nervous system and the body how to all show up for us now and in the future. Our everyday actions now are absolutely shaping our future conceptualization of ourselves. I'm going to say that again. Our everyday actions now, or we could say our day to day practices, our daily routine, all of that is absolutely shaping our future conceptualization of ourselves, our future thoughts about who we are and how we show up, our future self conceptualization, our ability to accept ourselves, love ourselves, honor ourselves, validate ourselves, believe in ourselves. It's being shaped by our current practices. Ghosting suggests that we don't show up. Ghosting suggests that we abandon when things get difficult or uncomfortable or we become bored. Ghosting suggests that we are not capable of achieving or being more. Creating healthy neuropaths is as simple as living in your truth and speaking your truth with action that is aligned with integrity. I love it. I'm going to say it again. Creating healthy neuropaths. You could say healthy file folders, healthy ideas, belief systems about who you are and how you show up in life. Creating healthy neuropaths is as simple as living in your truth. So you don't have to be anything but the truth. And speaking your truth with action that is aligned with integrity. So if you are not feeling someone or feeling a job, or there's a conversation that your parents are pushing, but you don't want to have it right now, but there's a situation that doesn't feel aligned for you, just say it. Hey, I know this is important to you. It's not as important to me right now. It's not high on my priority list. I really appreciate you taking the time to go out with me. It was nice getting to know you, but I feel like we're moving in different directions. I don't think we're on the same page in terms of values. I realized going out with you that I actually want to remain single. I really enjoyed my time with you, but I realized I'm not ready for an actual relationship or commitment. We can do this, people. We can, humanity. We can have the important conversations, but we have to upload software to the mental computer that helps us live without regret or apology. And ghosting is not that healthy software. Ghosting does not create healthy paradigms. It actually undermines our ability to believe in our self-worth and our strength and our resilience, which absolutely then will create regret or apology later. The way we're living now is important, but we also have to think about our aging process, both cognitively and physically. Our thoughts about ourselves, a sense of failure or being a punk, completely undermines our aging process, both cognitively and physiologically. And you can imagine what happens if we deteriorate cognitively, right? If our brain deteriorates because we see ourselves as a failure or less than, that's going to have some pretty severe implications in what we're thinking about, how we're thinking, how we're remembering, how we're communicating as we are getting older. So by showing up, uploading healthy software to the mental computer, it helps us by protecting the aging process and your mental acuity. So don't ghost yourself later by practicing ghosting now. Does that make sense? Don't abandon your future self, your older self, your more vulnerable self that's really going to need you to show up when you're an older person. Don't ghost that future you. by practicing ghosting now. Let's stop setting this standard and let's decide, humanity, to deactivate this paradigm in society. Let's be fully present and engaged. Let's have the assertive conversations instead of taking the low road of ghosting so that your brain and body understand the assignment. You need both to show up for you now and later. You're going to need your brain and your body. Your brain and body will be congruent with your thoughts and actions. In other words, your brain and body will show up for you in direct correlation to the thoughts that you've been thinking your whole life and the actions that you've allowed to implement and be a part of your life strategy. So rise above ghosting if you can. Rise above this ghosting culture and ghosting practices. Challenge yourself to be a better version of yourself.